Every girl has heard at one point in her life, "Oh, what's the matter? You have no sense of humor? What's the matter? You can't take a joke? Yeah, come on, honey, you can't take a joke. Give me a break." And we think, "Oh God, it's me, right? It's me, I can't. I guess the Stooges are funny. Okay, I don't get it, it's me. I'm missing something." A lot of guys, my age especially, your dads, think the funniest scene in any Western culture production, in any media, is the fart scene in Blazing Saddles. Right? You know that? Right? I mean, you can figure it out, okay? It's the fart scene in Blazing Saddles. I know men who bought DVD players so they can rewind to the fart scene. They make you watch it. Women go, "That's not funny." And guy goes, "I'll rewind." In case you missed the subtle nuance. You're going, "I don't think that's funny." And they say, "How can you not think that's funny?" You go, "I don't like it because I live with it." You know, I mean, it's a difference. The other reason that men think women have no sense of humor is because women are almost genetically incapable of remembering the punchlines to jokes. Right? Not only will we not remember the punchlines to jokes, we will ruin jokes for others. So we remember our boyfriend from high school's phone number, but we cannot remember the joke we heard last night. Okay? So that women will go up and say something like, "All right, Greg, tell that one about the shrimp." And Greg will go, "I can't tell that because shrimp is the punchline. And I can never tell that joke again." Okay? Because that's what we do. Because you know what? Women don't tell jokes. Women tell stories. Right? When a guy says, "I got something funny to tell you," you can hold up the stopwatch and go. Okay? It's going to be two blondes walk into a bar with a Dalmatian, and we can sort of take it from there. All right? And women will not remember that joke. Now, I don't think it is in our interest to remember that joke. That will not heighten our sense of self-esteem, right? Telling the joke about the blonde and the Dalmatian will not give us a better sense of ourselves in the world. So it is good to forget the punchline to that joke, all right? But if you go up to a woman and you say, "I got something funny to tell you," she comes up and she says, "I got something funny to tell you." If you're smart, you'll sit down, because you're going to be there a long, long time, okay? Because a woman is not going to tell you a bada bing, bada boom. She's going to say, "Okay, I was driving on 64, and we actually took a different exit, and I thought, you know, maybe I would just stop because I saw a Krispy Kreme, and I wasn't sure." And then another woman comes up and goes, "Yeah, you know, the Krispy Kreme are not that good. Unless they're just out of the oven, they're not really as good as Dunkin' Donuts. Dunkin' Donuts you can actually put in the bag." Other women are coming over saying, "You know how to save the fat? Is don't do half and half. Do half milk, half and half. And then you could do the coffee half and the coffee decaf half." And men who have been told they're going to hear a funny story are at this point throwing ropes over lighting fixtures because they're going to hang themselves because they think death will be quicker and more fun than waiting for the end of the story. But women are doing this because it's necessary for us to tell our stories because no one has told our stories. No one has told our stories. I'm going to read you a very brief part of "I'm With Stupid," which is, again, the book that I did with Jean Weingart, who writes for the Washington Post, does the Below the Beltway column. He really did it. So this is about history, okay? And I'm talking about how I see women's version of history as different from men's version of history, which has been the dominant version of history. I say to Jean, "You're defining history as a relentless march of progress. I define it as an appalling parade of debauchery and oppression perpetrated by bloodthirsty lunatics with penises, interrupted by the very occasional humanitarian achievement. History would have been entirely different and better if women had been the dominant sex. Unfortunately, the die was cast from the earliest moments. Women were squatting in caves, after all, in yurts, having babies, birthing babies, nurturing babies. They turned to the men and said, 'We're busy in here perpetrating the species. Go, get out of the house. Find something to do. Make history.' So men went out and got into trouble. And that's history. History is men going out of the house and getting into trouble. History as recorded by men has been a chronology of wars. This would not occur in a matriarchal society. In a matriarchal society, there would be no war. Not that it would be paradise, okay? Because there would be stresses. There would be bitchiness. There would be crankiness. There would be sarcastic remarks. My point is the hostilities between between nations would be entirely different. You would hurt their feelings. And that might escalate because that's the nature of the human species. In time, regrettably, societies would develop weapons of mass hurt feelings. These would be cruel, I don't deny it. Like you would make sweeping public statements about the children of the other country. Your children are ugly and have bad manners. Then you would feel terrible and you'd talk about it. There'd be a lot of communication. In a matriarchal society, the telephone would have been invented very, very early, right after the wheel. But there would be no wars because women don't want someone else's land. Why would you want someone else's land? There's more to clean. There might have been, for example, religion, though, although it would be different. There might have been a Catholic church, but it would not have had a hierarchy. Women do not like hierarchies. So there would have been, I don't know, no burnings or lynchings or auto-da-fe, no crusades. The church would have been mainly for tapestries. And I'm not saying a matriarchal society would be perfect, I'm saying it would be more peaceful. No society run by women, sending its sons and its daughters to be slaughtered by the sons and daughters of another society run by women. Control of the spice trade is not a reason for genocide. Women do not go to war over nutmeg. Okay? Basically, women historians would not have been reduced to defining pivotal moments in history by battlefield events. Chapter 12 would not be, for example, the defeat of the Spanish Armada. That would not be the sort of thing to usher in a new era. Eras would be defined by collective realizations about the nature of harmony, goodwill, and better living through cooperation. Chapter 12 might be when we learn that if you wash your hands, you get sick less often. That would be an era. Cooking with garlic, another era. An important pivotal moment in history would be the discovery that taking turns works well. A major historical figure from the 1200s would be named something like Phoebe the Nice. She would have had an assistant, Francine the Amusing. We would currently be in the era of good feeling because of epidural injections. Thank you. But the idea of telling our story, when women tell our stories, when women tell the truth. Virginia Woolf, I'm sure a lot of you have read A Room of One's Own, and Virginia Woolf points out that when we start telling the truth, there is bound to be an increase in comedy. But I think that our stories are important. It's certainly the humor that we use, especially to defend ourselves, is important. When we get to say something back. So when somebody comes up to me and says, liked your book, who wrote it for you? I'm allowed to say, glad you liked it, who read it to you? Okay? At Dartmouth, when guys would come up and say, when our grandfathers went here, there were no women. I said, when your grandfathers went here, there were no indoor lights. Sometimes things get better. You know? You're allowed to answer back, because if you don't answer back, you know what happens? All those words that you don't say out loud stick. And then when you need to yell, and you need to make yourself heard, you can't. Get all that stuff you haven't said for so long. Okay? So letting our voices out there is really crucial. Okay? Because otherwise, all those things that you're writing down at 2 o'clock in the morning on a notepad next to your bed that you should have said, right? That becomes your autobiography. And you want your autobiography instead to be all the stuff you did say out loud. And you know what happens? That even when, because taking, using humor to make yourself heard is about taking risks, okay? And it's terrifying to think that you might say something and somebody won't laugh, right? But I would suggest that when anybody comes up to any of us and says, what's so funny? When we're laughing, or at least up to mascara wiping behavior, right? And somebody comes up and says, what's so funny? That we take a moment and that we explain to that person what's so funny. And even if that person doesn't laugh, we realize what we've made is not a mistake. What we've made is a really good beginning. Thank you.